Hello, hello, Faith Nation. I'm Juan Garcia, social media correspondent for CBN News. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here to make sure we have fun today. So I want you to show love in the comments and tell us, should Faith have more or less involved in politics? And have you heard about the upcoming blood moon? And what do you think about the healthcare bill saga? Hey, listen, we have an amazing show planned for you today with our guest, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. That's right, today we bring the press briefing room to you. And guess what? The cameras are on. So send in your questions, your thoughts, and share this post so your friends can also jump in on the conversation. Faith Nation starts right now.
Well, it is a new day in D.C., and David, it's a new day for us here as well.
Faith Nation, we're here. It's not Face the Nation.
Faith Nation.
Listen, no disrespect to John Dickerson over at CBS. This is Faith Nation, and we're not playing. We're going to be interactive during the show. Send us your comments. We're moving through this pretty quickly, and we've got big tier A guests.
We do. Every week we're going to be bringing you exclusive access to some of the biggest movers and shakers in the Beltway. And David, we have a pretty big guy up on tap.
Talk about a mover and shaker. Let's bring him in. Would you, Sean Spicer from the White House. Sean, you're going to consider yourself a mover and a shaker, right? What are you?
Definitely. Not this. It's way too hot to be moving or shaking today in Washington, D.C. But big congratulations to you and Jenna. It's great to see this show on now and represents such a growing audience that you guys have at CBN, and I'm glad and honored to be part of the kickoff.
Well, appreciate it, Sean. We'll send you a pin later on, or I don't even know if that's in the budget, actually. Hey, Sean, let me ask you about healthcare. Obviously, everybody's saying it's over. Even the repeal vote can't go through. There's a meeting today with the Senate GOP caucus. What's going to be on tap? I don't mean on the menu, literally, but Donald Trump, the president, did say this thing's going to get even better at lunchtime. That was a tweet this morning. What's the sense there, Sean?
I think the president's committed to doing what he can to get this over the finish line. He understands how important health care is to American families and individuals, and so he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he puts a bill in place that gives the American people the access to health care and the affordability that they were promised over 8 years ago. We all know that Obamacare is a massive failure. It's costing too much. It's giving people a hard time getting to the doctors that they want to see and they need to see. And so the president's going to use every tool in his disposal to do what he can to repair health care, to fix the mistake that Democrats handed us.
So is health care still alive at this point, or what's the status? What would you say?
Well, I think Obamacare as a health care system is clearly dead. It has failed, and the president's going to do everything he can to work with our party to make sure that we put in place something that every Republican has promised for the last 7 years. So he's not going to give up. He's going to keep fighting, and this lunch hopefully represents an effort to continue that momentum. We've seen this before. We had this in the House, and the president fought very hard and got it over the finish line. I think he's going to make sure that he does everything he can to get everyone on the same page. So this lunch is another effort to do just that. And if we have to, then we'll move forward next week in some way, shape, or form to continue the promise that Republicans have made.
Sean, can I ask you a quick question straight up, because you're a straight up guy, which is Lisa Murkowski, Rob Portman, some of these folks, look, they voted for repeal only in 2015, and now they're saying they're not going to vote for that. How disappointing is that to this White House?
Well, again, I think that those individuals, they, as you noted, all voted in 2015 to repeal Obamacare. They talked about how bad it was and the concerns that they had for the reasons that I laid out, that it wasn't giving people the affordability nor the accessibility that they were promised. So we would hope that those same people, when given a chance now, if they don't want to vote for this comprehensive approach to repeal in a place, would at least work with us on the repeal bill, something that they all voted for in 2015, and then give us 2 to 3 years to come up with a comprehensive replace bill. If that's where they want to go, we'll go there. It's something that they always supported, that they supported a couple of years ago, so we can at least default to that. But obviously the president still is committed to trying to do both repeal and replace.
Sean, we all know tax reform is a heavy lift. What is the lesson learned from healthcare, and what's the strategy here?
Well, remember, Jenna, I mean, we had to do, in the arcane way that Washington, D.C., and particularly the Senate operate, health care was being done so that it would achieve savings that while we would get an affordable and accessible way to do healthcare, it would also achieve savings that could be used through this process that's known as reconciliation in the Senate. So obviously that had to go first. But with tax reform, we've really engaged in a very comprehensive listening tour of businesses, individuals, companies, associations. We haven't had comprehensive tax reform since 1986, and as you all know, the world has changed significantly since then. We need a tax code that is simpler, that gives people the relief that they need, and updates the code to reflect the technology and modernization that we've experienced since then. So we've done a lot of outreach to make sure that we have support and an understanding of what the American people, what American families, individuals, small businesses need to help grow the economy, to help their families, to help people save and reinvest. And I think that as we head into the summer months, we're going to continue to have that conversation with the American people, and hopefully early in the fall when Congress returns, we'll be able to move forward with that legislation.
Sean, let me ask you about the press briefings. You want to set the record straight a little bit. Look, you're must-see TV. You were must-see TV for a while. You're like the Seinfeld of television news or television politics. Give us the sense of how you decide there what's going to be on camera and off camera. What's the mechanism there, if you will?
Well, there's a lot of factors, David, that go in every day, and obviously one of the things that gets overblown, as you know, you're here quite often, is that we brief every day. And the question is, I think for some individuals, they want everything on camera every day. And as you know, like today, the president's going to have several events on camera. He's going to have the pool involved. And so on days when he's going to be doing big events and making major policy initiatives, it's obviously much more important to have the president's voice carry the day. And so we'll engage with reporters throughout the day. One of the things that people don't sometimes appreciate because of the way that they get it is, we're here very early in the morning, we stay very late at night, we're engaging with the press all day long, doing interviews like this, communicating with the press, and then we do a briefing every single day. I think for a lot of folks that they're more interested in getting the clip, to put on the internet, to put on their news, and we're interested in making sure that we communicate with the American people, that we give the press an opportunity to get their questions answered. But we're not here to make it a spectacle either. We want to make sure that we do things that are informative and helpful to get the president's message out, to answer the key questions. So on days when he's talking in particular, we're going to make sure that we let his voice carry the day.
And the mainstream media, they want to talk about Russia all day long. Sean, what is a story that a lot of people are missing?
Well, they're missing a lot of things, Jenna. I mean, when you talk about healthcare and education, tax reform, as you just mentioned a second ago, those are things that are on the top of mind. Immigration, gang violence, the opioid crisis. There's so many things that are affecting communities throughout this country. Religious liberty that we're talking about here in the White House on a consistent basis that aren't breaking through in the mainstream media. Now, I would say the one thing that's really interesting is that we did a big Made in America push the other day on Monday, where we talked about businesses and the efforts and the regulatory reform and the tax reform that the president's pushing to help Americans and to help American companies reinvest in this country, to help jobs grow. And we got great coverage throughout the 50 states. We didn't necessarily get so much on the national news. That's one of the challenges that we face, breaking through and talking to local and regional reporters and outlets, because I think that's where we get our bang for our buck.
Last question, Sean. I know it's hot out there, so let me ask you real quick. The Jerusalem embassy situation, the vice president said the other day that, look, it's not a question of if, it's only when. This sounds like a pretty solid commitment to move the embassy to Jerusalem. What's the take?
Well, again, I'm not gonna get ahead of the vice president. That's something that's still being worked. It's a commitment that the president made, and the vice president obviously is much closer to this issue in terms of the president's thinking. But we have been very close to working with at the staff level on this, and when we have an announcement, we'll make sure that we get it out there.
Sounds good. We're done with questions. I will say this. We get a question all the time on Facebook to you specifically. There's a question from folks out there. They want to know how they can pray for you. So that's a question for them. Not from us, but from them. What's your answer to them?
Well, honestly, anytime someone says that they're praying, that's a very meaningful thing, and obviously the way in which they communicate with God is very personal. Some people like to say a rosary or recite a prayer. Some people want to talk in their own personal way. It's obviously prayer is something that I think every individual has to decide how they want to have that conversation, and I appreciate any and all of it.
Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to see you.
You bet. Thanks, Jenna. And again, congratulations on this show. I know it's going to be a great hit.
And Sean, the pin is in the mail.
Thanks, David.
It is hot out there.